Yo, yo, it's the RedBlue podcast crew. Reviewing flicks, both old and new. Red and blue, not political. Nah, man, chill. It was Marvel versus DC till we lost that thrill. Don't stress the episode, don't ask the season. We double up franchises, don't ask for a reason. Multi's got rules that nobody gets. His takes on movies, they're wild as it gets. He's got Superbald Mac and Grey by his side, trying to keep it sane while they're in for the ride. Multi's measures are out of control, but in the end he's got the final role. Yeah, that blue podcast, come check the scene. Movies old and new, know what I mean?
Hi, I am Multi-Topic Talk. I am the host of the RedBlue podcast, and this is the after show of the RedBlue podcast. So basically, it's a movie that was chosen by a fellow YouTube content creator, Grey Poupet, Bone Tomahawk. I hope all of you will enjoy. So the after show is basically a movie that was chosen, but it didn't get to be streamed. So that's the review now. Let's review this.
Well,
And we are back. Um, oh my. Oh. And we are back. How are you, Superbald?
I'm all right.
Amazing. What about
My
you,
eye
Gray?
is very itchy right now, though.
Feeling you. What about
What
you,
a
Gray?
coincidence. My eye is also itchy, but other than that, I'm doing great.
Amazing. We are there to talk about Bone Tomahawk. Gray, I will pass you the mic. Why Bone Tomahawk?
Well, first off, it's a slightly older film. It's like 10 years old now, and Multi thinks that is just way too old for a film.
That's actually
So that's
recent,
one.
unlike 2000s. But yeah, go on.
And then it's a Western, or at least Western adjacent. And I know Multi was kind of talking crap on Westerns before, saying that the pacing is very wrong, and excuse me, my bird decided to scream. Saying that the pacing is very wrong, they're very slow, and boring movies. I feel like this one is very much different than that, especially being as long as it is. We just talked about two films that were like an hour and 47 minutes and an hour and 40 minutes. This one comes in at 2 hours and 13 minutes. And man, it does not feel like it's that long to me. But I wanted to test you on a couple little things, but show you something that I think would appeal to your sensibilities that is in the Western genre or around that area. So that was the reason why I chose it, is basically you talking smack on Western, sir.
Amazing. I like your thought process, and you kind of understand my sensibilities very well, because I ended up being surprised and amazed, and I liked that movie a lot. So when guys chose Tremor over it for the show, I was like, no, my favorite of the two. But
I still regret nothing, though, regarding that. I love Tremors.
Bone Tomahawk is worth your time. So I guess I will start because I already kind of started. Bone Tomahawk is just wow. You surprised me, movie. The main character lying to the dying guy was kind of cool. And there's a payoff later on to this. They also lie to someone else. Everyone lies, but like for the right reasons. That's kind of cool. The injured guy desire to self-sacrifice to not live as a crippled was relatable. The broken leg guy pushing his limit for his wife was so cool. There was a nice divide in the group. Shivers believes himself to be moral. The Indian hunter shootout for survival, and that was shown in a scene where they kind of argued over it. And let's be honest, the Indian hunter was right. Any thoughts on that scene where the Indian hunter kind of told, yeah, it's bullshit, Sheriff? Any thoughts, Gray or Super Bowl? Do you remember that, guys?
So you're talking about kind of the night ambush where the two guys come upon their camp and his.
Yeah.
has the sheriff's hesitance to to immediately take action.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's meant as more character work, so you see that the sheriff is a man of principle, if you will, that he wouldn't just have shot on them. He in fact says to the Broder character that or excuse me, Bruder character, Matthew Fox, that you had no right to do that. And then it does show that perhaps they were part of a raiding party and they were just the scouts, because somebody did steal their horses and attempt to kill them while they were sleeping when they went to a different location, a dry camp. So it heavily implies that he was correct, even if he is ruthless in his ways. But I don't know. I guess it could be a completely unrelated thing, but it does appear that he was probably correct in his assumption.
yeah, that was amazing. Outside of that, the husband with the broken leg had a lot of charisma, as despite his injury he still goes out seeking for his wife. And I think there's also irony. You expect this guy to die first in the group, but he ended up like being the one that finished up all of the bad guys. That's kind of irony there. The most crippled one is the reason the good guys won. Good, well, good. I don't know how good, but you guys know what I'm trying to say there, right? um, Outside of that, that was a very sad death for the sheriff. What did you think of the sheriff's death, Superbald?
Um, I'm not sure, to be honest. That's one aspect of the movie I'm kind of ambivalent on. Um, it is kind of a noble sacrifice, but at the same time, was it all that necessary? Mind you, he was mortally wounded. That's clear. Like, he wasn't going to survive. So, no, I'm kind of ambivalent on that one.
What about
It
you,
leads
Gray?
to
What
like
did you think?
I don't think there's any way that he would have made it. So they say in the beginning how many days walk it would be. I don't think there's any shot that he could have made it. So it would have been
No,
like a very painful
mhm.
death where he could have a chance to do one final standoff, which seems like something that the character would have liked to, kind of go out nobly. But then on top of that, you get that line that, oh, it's so iconic. And every time I hear it, it just, it gets me in the feels that, you say goodbye to my wife and I'll say hello to yours. Just man, his delivery on that and just everything that character goes through. Just man, there's a reason why Kurt Russell's the man. He makes me feel. But I dig it. To me, it is completely unexpected. But man, is it so within that character?
Yeah. Again, thank you a lot, Dre, for recommending that movie. I liked it so much. The action was entertaining. The bar scene with the sheriff shooting Buddy was fun. More cool action. The meeting to plan the counterattack was great. The humor was kind of fun when there was humor. And the main character taking out two others felt great. The death of the bad guys felt earned and deserved. After every ugly things they did, they deserve to die. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just thought that was a solid movie, and I didn't see the 2 hour pass by. Um, so what did you think of Bone Tomahawk, Superbald?
Um, I went into this not quite sure what to expect, because we had discussed it on several episodes, and I know Gray was quite fond of the movie, and I read a bit about it on the internet, but I went kind of blind. I was sort of expecting more straightforward Western, but no, this is more of a, as Gray said, a Western adjacent. It's more set in the Western world, but it's more, maybe a little bit more horror movie in a way. Um, but I really enjoyed it. Kurt Russell, as always, amazing. Most of the other actors, though, I had not seen in other things, with the exceptions of maybe Richard Jenkins and some of the smaller character It's like David Arquette, obviously. The Mayor's Wife was Sean Young, which I was surprised to see. I haven't seen her in anything in a long time. There was also the late Sid Haig, who was in he's a lot of horror
Captain
movies.
Spaulding.
Yeah. But Patrick Wilson, Matthew Fox, I haven't looked up their IMDb, but don't think I've seen them in anything else. Same thing with Lily Simmons. The piano player in the bar, though, was James Tolkien. I was surprised to see him because I actually thought he was dead because I haven't seen him in anything in a long time. He, of course, was Principal Strickland in Back to the Future. Slacker.
And that pianist, like the whole sign bit, is just so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I dig that. I still think about that often, where it's like, but it's 3 cents for a song. Why is it 10 cents for 3? It doesn't make.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that guy. I was surprised to see him, but I'm glad he's still around, kicking around. Mind you, that was 10 years ago, so I don't know. But no, it was good pacing, as you said. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. Doesn't feel like that at all. Because of the setting, though, it has a very small cast, which is fine. But I think all the actors are used effectively. As one reviewer said, though, the kind of like the racial politics in this are terrible, but it is very accurate for the time. I think movies set in that time shouldn't sugarcoat what the reality was of what people's thoughts were on and how they treated Native Americans and Black people and that kind of thing. That being said, I thought they did a kind of a smart thing here, where these cannibals, or whatever you want to call them, weren't part of an actual real tribe. I don't know if there were ever any actual people like this in the colonial days. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised that would be real.
Quite possible. I don't know.
Because if you demonize a group of people, they will turn into demons. That's basic psychology. So if they call you a savage, maybe you will start acting like one.
Yeah, true. But mind you, as they said in this movie, this particular group didn't have a language, so
Yet they could perform surgery somehow.
yeah, without anesthetic. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say though. I did enjoy the movie, but again, this is one that I kind of struggle to find interesting things to talk about. Sometimes you just enjoy a movie, but you can't really articulate why you liked it. Good cinematography though. Like, most of it does take place at night and indoors and in caves, so you don't see the typical landscape you'll see in westerns. Big the big desert and things like that. But still good cinematography. As I said, a bit of ambivalent about the death of the sheriff, but the other characters who did die. What was that other fellow's name?
The one that got cut in 2 halves. The guy that is.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Deputy Nick, or are you talking about
Deputy Nick? Yeah, and Bruder. Excellent character. He's a racist, unapologetic, but
the hunter.
Yeah, I thought he was a good character. He's not a good person, I find, but he was a good character. And his sacrifice was more because he didn't want to live like a cripple. It wasn't so much that he wanted to give his life to help save the others. It's just like, I don't want to live like a cripple. I haven't mentioned Richard Jenkins yet, and he gave a very subdued performance in this, but I think it was good. It fit the character. Very good character. Lily Simmons, we didn't see a whole lot of her. Honestly, I think this is the only thing I can judge her on because I haven't seen her in anything. Not a bad performance, but I think the character was so underdeveloped. We saw so little of it. Like pretty much any capable actress could have played this role. Other than that, though, I don't have a whole lot to say.
Okay, Gray, that's your go. What did you think of Bone Tomahawk?
Yeah, I absolutely love this film. I definitely understand some of the criticism, but I think some of it is really very overblown. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the director of this. I'm assuming probably not, because I think this is kind of his biggest film. So he's only made 3 films so far. He made this one, Brawl in Cell Block 99, and Dragged Across Concrete. And Brawl in Cell Block 99. So they were both after this. This is his first one that kind of put him on the map. But man, S. Craig Zoller is the dude's name. And yeah, he is kind of prolific in this weird way. So he's a screenwriter. He's a novelist. He spent some time in as a cinematographer. Just out of film school, he was initially a cinematographer, shot like 5 short films, and then decided to move on from that to be both a musician, a composer, and then a novelist. But he is also a metal drummer and a vocalist in a band called Realm Builder. And he's made, I think it was 9 albums with them. So about 2010, he had sold 21 screenplays and 0 of them got made. So he's really good at writing. He writes a shit ton. And they get sold, but nobody has made one. And then just before this one came out, one of his screenplays was actually adapted, but they tacked on this really weird ending, and it did not do particularly well. But because he had sold 21 different screenplays and 0 of them got made, he decided, you know what, I'm just going to make my own flick. So he talked to his manager, who decided to be the producer on this. And that guy said, like, well, I think I can get you like 0.9 million, so just under $1 million. And then he found this other company that was willing to match his thing. So he was able to get a budget of $1.8 million together. And he said, okay, I need you to write a micro budget Western horror. And S. Craig Zoller, he's written a bunch of kind of Western novels. Originally, they wanted him to kind of adapt one of his, but they're all way too big of stories. So he decided he had to write a completely different one. And he didn't want to write just a straight up Western. He wanted to use like a Western as kind of the backdrop of it, but he didn't want to tell a Western story. Instead, what he wanted to tell was it's a close and sort of related genre. So the Western genre came about in like 1870, and it has to do with like the American frontier, and it's the struggle between civilization and wilderness. But there's a different genre that came about in 1885. So within like 10 or 15 years, this lost world genre came about. And that's a hidden or prehistoric civilization is discovered. So the first one from that is called King Solomon's Mines. And it is a story in Africa where this group of explorers goes in and they end up finding this lost civilization. You know, there's a ton of different stories like that. So he wanted to set that in kind of a Western setting and then make it somewhat of a horror thing. And for a budget of 1.8 million, basically everyone he talked to said, like, you're crazy. There is no way you can do that. But his screenplay was really tight and really snappy. In fact, everyone he showed it to, they had no notes for him. What we're seeing now is the first draft. There were a couple of pages that got cut from it, but there weren't any rewrites. It really is like that compelling of a script. And it took them about 3 years to get it made. So I think they shot it in 2014, but as early back as like 2011, they were trying to get this made. So it really is kind of a labor of love. And at one point, they had a almost completely different cast. So Kurt Russell and Richard Jenkins were always in, Sheriff Hunt and Chicory. But the Patrick Wilson character, Arthur, was originally going to be played by, I think it was Timothy Oliphant. And the Brooder character, I think, was Peter Skarsgård. And then the Samantha character was a different actress as well. And unfortunately, that all fell through. But Kurt Russell was still willing to be there, and Richard Jenkins was still willing to be there. He wrote these characters specifically for them. So when they signed on and were willing to take a pay cut, and that's the thing with the 1.8 million, they only had a 21-day shooting schedule, and every member of every crew that he talked to was saying, like, there's no way that you can do this at 1.8 million in 21 days. You need at least 10 million, and you need at least 60 days to shoot this thing. Basically everyone he talked to said that he was crazy for doing this, but he was able to do it at less than a fifth of the budget that they were telling him he needed, and he did it in about a third of the time. So this thing is just kind of amazing. But the fact that he had previous work as a cinematographer, he previously had worked as a director of stage plays, he was pretty sure that he could get the performances that he's looking for in that amount of time. But I guess he was saying that first day of shooting, he knew if he was behind schedule on that first day, nobody was going to be behind him. And man, he just said that he completely lucked out that they were able to get that first day in. But man, just it is kind of amazing. So it had a budget of 1.8 million, and it premiered at Fantastic Fest, and it got bought by I'm forgetting who actually bought it. But they gave it a small release after that, and it did not do amazingly. One of the reasons is it is not rated. There is one particular scene with Deputy Nick where, I do believe that would be an NC-17 scene. I don't know if it would have been able to get an R rating. When the violence goes, it goes pretty hard in this one. So I think there was limited theater release, and it got just under 500,000 in theater release. But on DVD and digital sales, it got 4.28 million. So it is long since made back its budget, which is awesome. Everyone got paid on that. But the actors, Kurt Russell, Matthew Fox, Richard Jenkins, Patrick Wilson, every single actor in here was basically working at scale, like the minimum amount that they could be paid legally. None of the money in this was going to them. It was all going to this one location. They basically found this one ranch and were able to shoot like 90% of it all in one location, which is awesome. And the look to this, again, it's very dusty, and it's very yellow tinted, but in a very different way than Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which we talked about a little while ago. But it's also kind of sepia tone, but in a much different way. This is definitely using post color correction as well, but man, I just love the look that they're able to get out of this. It looks so hot, and man, I would not want to wear all the layers that they're wearing in that heat. I love the look of this, and then the way that he's able to kind of stage and really block out each scene. It just like I'm thinking, for instance, when David Arquette is trying to run out of the bar, it goes right from this close to just this extreme wide shot, and you can just see him shoot him in the leg. Just man, every single, and the blocking when the piano player is there as well. There's some really fun camera movement. It's not just a stable camera. It's a little bit shaky. It's just giving you a little bit of movement, even in these kind of still shots. And just, man, I love the look of this movie. The dialogue is super snappy. And again, this script, it is the first draft of the script. Nobody really had improvements or notes on this, which is like unheard of. Scripts usually just go through rewriting hell. But man, everyone believed in it. And it does have this kind of unique voice. And there's little bits that I notice each time I watch this, but just so many little character pieces. And just, I can't get enough of the Chicory character, the assistant deputy, Richard Jenkins's character. Man, he is just like absolutely perfect as this kind of, the one that you'd least expect to be making it back on this journey. But man, is that guy. I think this is my favorite Richard Jenkins performance, and that dude is always great at whatever he does. But the score in this one, it's very sparse, but when it's there, oh man, is it impactful. And I guess S. Craig Zoller, his partner that he does a bunch of music with, he also partnered and did the score on this thing. So he also did everything on this, including the score. But it's very sparse, and you get a lot of interesting sound design with very little music. does in a way kind of have that No Country for Old Men thing where you get a lot of wind sound and a lot of kind of rattling, but man, just the action in this, it just, the way that they're able to kind of do that throat whistle thing and just make it seem like this danger that's just off in the distance, and then how terrifying it is when the dude's like in the actual room with you. Just the sound design on this is just amazing. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is the pacing. Just for 2 hours and 15 minutes, it seems like, and there's a lot of times where they're just kind of walking and talking, but man, this doesn't feel like it's slow. All of those moments, they're there for a reason. They are really there to introduce these characters, to really get you to know them. There's so much of this Brooder character that is just so ugly and so horrible, but once you kind of get his backstory, it's not that you condone what he's doing, but you kind of understand where he's coming from when you realize that, like, he does have this hatred for certain people, but perhaps it's based off of his personal experience. You just kind of understand why he has these things, not justifying it. But man, there's just so much with each of these characters and just so much that they're doing. And then it really gives you like an insight into what each of these characters would be kind of thinking in these scenarios. But man, to start it out right away with Sid Haig and David Arquette just immediately slitting a throat and being these horrible, I don't know exactly what you'd call it, but bandits. They're ambushing these sleeping, these unarmed men who, they're not coming about combat or getting one over on these guys. Instead, they're just like ambushing them. And then to see that they're the ones that kick this all off, and it is based off of David Arquette's, defiling of some sacred land that led to this entire thing. I love the screenplay with this, and just S. Craig Zoller is kind of amazing in that he's now written 53 different screenplays. He's made 9 albums. He has 3 comic books that are out, 7 novels, and he's a 3-time director. Just I don't know. It seems like this dude does everything. But he is supposedly doing a 2024 movie. Or, sorry, they're going into production in 2024, it was announced. So it's The Bookie and the Bruiser with Vince Vaughn and Adrian Brody. So I think that is supposed to be out next year. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. But there is a lot of kind of criticism of this movie. First off, like, the number one review of it comes up as this novel that this dude wrote on Letterboxd, where he just calls this Trumpsploitation and just fascist art. And man, this guy has, I think by the end there's like 5 P's in his PPPPS or whatever. Just he keeps going on. So yeah, there's some people that take this as somehow condoning a whole bunch of Trump stuff, even though it came out in 2015 and it was written in like 2011 and then went through like 3 years of production before it even got into there. So yeah, a lot of people don't like it based off of, preconceived notions or whatever. And then the other thing is the whole like racism charge. The number one review when you kind of bring it up on YouTube is there is no excuse for this movie. Stop making excuses for Bone Tomahawk. And basically the dude is just trying to say that, this is basically anti-indigenous art, that this is supposed to be racist against any indigenous people.
No, it's just a freaking movie. I hate when people do that. Like, I don't know, man. Get off Twitter. I don't know.
I don't know. If he's thinking that that's what... So there definitely are racist characters in here, and there is racism. The Brooder character is very racist, and, the other characters are kind of calling him out for it. Like, they're even saying, like, oh, you taught your horse to be a biget?
And he's not glorified either. He's not some kind of superhero that will take down the bad guys,
But the dude on YouTube, his main thing is like, by making this lost indigenous tribe, you are saying that this is indigenous people and this is what they do. And then you use the tropes of He happens to basically scalp the one guy, and that's again indigenous tropes that they're using to show racism. I don't know. These guys are cannibals. I wouldn't want to eat hair. I'm pretty sure if I were to harvest a human, I would probably be scalping them. It's a morbid thought, but what can I say? I don't know that that's necessarily anti-indigenous people, but I can understand where the guy's coming from when he's saying that. But the other thing is it again is not meant to be a Western. It's not just civilization versus the uncivilized world. It is kind of this lost genre of the lost world. Again, it's like in the vein of King Solomon's Mines, which was the first lost world type genre. But it's just these explorers come across this recently discovered people or this undiscovered people before. I guess you could say that that's racism, but then I don't know. There is that one tribe or whatever that, they are cannibals, and there is this cannibalistic island. I'm forgetting exactly where it is, but, some Christian missionaries tried to go there against the...
North Sentinel Island.
Yes. So it's like, I don't know, is reporting on that also racism because you're using tropes of these indigenous people that eat people? I don't know. I think there's ways that you could be racist talking about it, but I don't know. It is a genre of fiction. It is, you come across this extremely uncivilized people, and it's not meant to represent everyone that's indigenous. It's this one particular thing. And they try to make that clear that these are troglodytes. They're these weird inbred cave people that are not at all like humans we have ever seen. So I don't know. To me, it's distinctly different, but they're saying the fact that they had the character who's known as the professor, who was a native guy, basically saying, no, these aren't natives. Like, you guys might classify them that way, but what these are actually are troglodytes. They're an inbred, completely different group of people.
And I will add more to this. I will add more to this. Like that tribe, I think the eating people part and the very violent part against the whites, if we can call them that way, I think that could be accurate to something that might have happened, but I think the more glorified and more novelized, the more fictitious or the more fake part is how they treat their woman. I don't think that would be as grounded as the rest of what was going on in the movie. And I think that was used only to show them as being these villains, but that wasn't a message about all indigenous people are. It's just these specific ones that are disgusting.
For sure. And they are brutal. The troglodytes, it is a really fun creature. I didn't think of, a creature that would somehow surgically implant some sort of like whistle device in their throat to use that type of thing instead of just come up with like some sort of vocalization like screaming or something. But man, is that whistle scary, and man, are these creatures brutal. Just I love it. There is a huge amount of gore in this movie, but I kind of like the way that it does it. It's very quick. It is kind of I guess there's a bit of warning. There is the whistle sound, but man, it just seems to happen so quick and just in the blink of an eye, and then it's just over. I think that's the way that I've experienced violence in my life. It's not like, a brutal action movie where suddenly it goes into slow-mo and, all this other. So it's just bam.
Zack Snyder.
Yeah, it's a different way of doing that.
I agree with you. I've actually witnessed somebody getting shot, and yeah, it doesn't happen like it does in the movies. It's very quick, and it's over before you even realize you even understand what's going on.
Yeah, and just man, the amount of gore in this, it's all practical, and even if the practical only works so much, just man, it still has a different visceral feeling to this. I can't tell you how many like headshots or whatever I've seen with like CG blood or whatever. It doesn't seem to affect me, but just watching like an actual like mannequin arm getting the hand chopped, just man, that's brutal. It really gets me.
Yeah, there were parts of this that were tough for me. Even though intellectually, in the back of my mind, I knew this wasn't real. It was still kind of tough.
And that goes to S. Craig Zoller, again, the writer director. He did not want to have CG effects on this. He wanted everything to be practical and happen in camera, and then people actually react to that. And it comes off a completely different way than a lot of the other gory ones that use a lot more CG. Just it's abrupt, but man, is it brutal that it sticks with you. I can understand why a bunch of people were saying that this is over the top. There's definitely one scene that has become very infamous, and there's even a horror movie that kind of recreates it. But yeah, it's so much more brutal here, and I've watched a couple people's reaction to that particular scene on YouTube in the last couple days, and it is a brutal scene, and it's kind of fun to watch people watch that. It kind of keeps going when you don't expect it to, but man, and then it leads to the whole miscommunication, or at least Chicory trying to comfort Sheriff Hunt with when he gets his turn after unfortunately Deputy Nick had his turn with the troglodytes. Just that reassurance, it doesn't come off the same way from Chicory as it did when Sheriff Hunt was trying to leave Deputy Nick with some good final thoughts before his untimely demise. But man, there's little character things like that, like the whole way that Chicory is trying the whole time, but just he seems to be coming up short in almost every single way. But this is a film that's really stuck with me, and I don't know how many times I've seen it now. It's probably close to like 10, and I find new things each time, and I'm still digging this film. It's one of those that I will rewatch in the future, and I look forward to it.
I'm with you on that. And because you already have the mic, what would be your grade out of 10?
Ooh, I think I would also go 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. What's that, 9?
Yeah.
So, I'd go 9 out of 10 on this one.
What about you, Superbald?
To me, this is an 8.5.
Okay. And I will song Tracy again, because I have no issues with this. It's a 10 out of 10, and I'm excited to rewatch. And
no issues? Not even the Nonverbal Society doing multiple surgeries?
No,
because
not really. No.
Their women seem to have multiple amputations, and then everyone has the pipe implanted in their throat or whatever.
That was to showcase.
Yeah, and the women had like pegs in their eyes too.
That was to showcase how cruel and monstrous they are, and I think that was to highlight that's the fiction part, because as much as I think some tribes could be dangerous to the white people back then, because white people were also dangerous toward them. I think that part was real, but the part with the ugly things done to the woman from that tribe, I think it's only to highlight these are monsters. Maybe I'm wrong, but again,
no, they're definitely monsters. You're right.
I adore this movie. I think it made the cut to my list of my favorite movies among all, but it's like more like top 20 or top 30. But I liked it a lot. So thank you for recommending. Any closing thoughts on that before we close off?
No, it's just a great movie that'll stick with you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, RedBlue podcast. Come check the scene. Movies old and new. Know what I mean? The RedBlue podcast. Come check the scene. Movies old and new. Know what I mean?